Welcome back, everybody. As promised, got Tommy Perfect here with Uplift Property Management out of San Diego. Tommy, thank you so much for joining us today.
No, it's awesome to be here. Happy to talk property management. I'm always happy to talk shop.
So you're in California, and we know that California is kind of a different country altogether, especially like different from Texas. But we also know that there's a lot of legislation that happens in California, and then it kind of pushes eastbound. So tell me kind of your ideas or your thoughts on the more legislation that's coming in, if it's good, bad, and different for your business, for property management, and then how as property managers can we deal with this moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, most of the legislation that comes down is really, anti-landlord, right? And so that's really the property owner. And as property managers, we assume that role of landlord, but we don't really assume the financial risk of being the landlord. So when we get into California, rent control laws, just cause evictions, and how to, you have to pay these relocation fees, and then, every municipality can enact their own laws. So, like for example, San Diego has the San Diego Tenant Protection Ordinance, and that essentially there's a couple things in it, but the main thing is it doubles the relocation reimbursement that you have to give a tenant if you don't have a just cause, a no fault eviction, right? Um, it just makes it a little bit more expensive to be a landlord in
Example,
California.
I'm sorry, just give an example of a no fault eviction. Like, so let's say I'm the property owner
Yeah.
and the lease is ending and I don't want to renew the lease with that person because maybe they're a dirty tenant or just I just want to get they pay late or whatever it is. And I just want to lease ends, end of June,
Yeah, so
renew it.
so when their lease is ending, essentially what, from my understanding, and obviously I'm not an attorney, but the ending of a contract used to be, something that you could just say, oh, the contract's up, we're just not going to renew, right? That's the end of our relationship. We agreed to be here for a year and we're just done. We don't want to renew. Well, now you have to have a cause for asking someone to leave, essentially. And this is only on those, you know, multifamily units, so two plus units on a property where an owner doesn't live in one of the two if it's a duplex. So single family homes, single condos, these are all exempt from these rules, which is fine. And that's what we like to focus on, but we still do a significant portion of multifamily that falls under these tenant protection ordinances. And so, for example, just cause would be like, if they're paying late repeatedly, you serve them a 3-day notice to cure and they continue to pay late, and you say, okay, because you're not doing that, we're going to ask you to leave, right? Or if they're committing waste on the property, like damaging it, or if they have delinquent rent. Those are all just causes. A no fault, you know, a no fault eviction is when you say, oh, I want to, you're severely under market rent. You want to move these tenants out, build, redo the unit, remodel, and increase the rents a lot. You have to pay a relocation expense when that happens, right? You can't just ask the tenant to leave, as long as it was in a habitable condition. It
Even if
was no
even if the
fault of
lease
the
is up,
tenant.
huh? Even if the lease is up.
Yeah. Well, from my understanding, what I've been recommended to do to make sure that I'm not going to get sued, because going against these tenant protection ordinances, some people think, oh, you can do cash for keys kind of thing, give them, pay them to leave, right? Well, now, if you don't pay them at least what that relocation cost is, and you go around some of their rights that are on there, there's, criminal punishments that could be attached to that. And, that's just not something I'm willing to risk as a broker. So
Now,
it's an interesting spot.
as more legislation happens, are you seeing more investors giving property managers the properties? Because it's always been what is it, the 80-20, 80% of properties are self-managed, 20% are managed. And in Australia, oh, it's 80% that are third-party managed. And they obviously have a lot more legislation. Are you seeing that, or are you seeing people just sell and get out of being investors, and so it's actually affecting the company, your business? What do you got? What are you seeing personally?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into why a real estate investor may move their property or reinvest, or, you choose to use a property manager. So, one, we have a lot of people that are selling. Honestly, most of the people who are selling aren't even part of these, rent control legislations. They're the ones that own that condo and they decide to sell it. They own that single family home, they inherited that house, a few years ago, and now they just say, hey, we're ready to cash out, and they want to, part ways with being a landlord because they hear all these things are difficult in California, but really a lot of them don't even apply to them. So on that side, we're seeing people sell and get out of it, but we also are seeing more people come to a property manager. On the multifamily side, where you see those serial investors going, most of them are just holding pat because interest rates are keeping their prices down at this point, and the market has kind of plateaued here in San Diego. So people aren't seeing the huge returns on, fix and flips of multifamilies anymore, and the syndication groups have slowed down. So you see the movement on the real estate market slowing, but on the property management side, we've been getting more leads than ever because California is making it so hard for somebody on their own to do it that they really need to hire us. It's becoming more of a necessity. And that's been, eye-opening for me. When I started in property management, almost 10 years ago, I thought it was for those rich people who just didn't want to deal with their problem. And now I see it's a necessity. Like, I think you would be stupid not to use a property manager to save you money and save you headache and liability because sooner or later you're going to get sued by a tenant. And if you don't have somebody who understands exactly what's going on, you're going to get taken for a ride.
Yeah, I think in one aspect it makes our jobs a little bit more difficult, right? Because you have to stay on top of the legislation and there's a lot more red tape and there's some paperwork and it's harder to get people out or harder to increase whatever. It's harder to do our job. But the positive side of it is it's harder for the landlords as well. And so that they want to go ahead and say, you know what, I'd rather go ahead and give you, Mr. Property manager, Mr. Professional Property Manager, I want to give you these these challenges. So I think it's like so
The cream will rise to the top, it always does. And, we love being part of that top. I'm part of NARPM. I'm the incoming president for this coming year, starting next month with our San Diego chapter, and just talking to other property managers that show up to those meetings and care about learning. We just had Tracy Merrill with Kimball Tyree St. John come in and do a whole educational seminar for us and legislative update. Really, the things that come into play are just make our lives a little harder and they cost more money to our landlords. And that's essentially what the state is doing. And, I see it as redistribution of wealth. And I think that's wrong. I think we should be able to work for our own wealth and not have the government redistribute it, but not to get political. Um, so it makes us a necessity. So it's job security for us.
is it
And
is
I
it
love
causing
that.
your expenses to go up though because of the more red tape? Are you seeing that we have to hire more people and can you increase your pricing? Like is your pricing going up because of the expenses as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a trickle down effect in economics, right? So the prices go up, rents are going to go up, right? If everything costs a landlord more, they're going to have to turn around and make their money back. And when you try to take a cut of all the landlords at the same time, then all the landlords at the same time, will look at that market and raise their rents, right? It's not collusion because they're not talking to each other, but you're watching the market and you do what the market is bearing. And we're seeing it cooling right now, but we're heading into leasing season in the summer in San Diego. Everybody wants to be here. Things start moving, and we love that. So I don't see it as a big issue increasing my costs. My managers are efficient. We focus on making sure we have our tech stack and our operations going seamlessly. And we just build into our processes, making sure that we're compliant with the legislation that comes out.
Having processes, automation, good people, paying remote team members, it's all part of it to keep your costs down and to make sure that you don't get tripped up when something does change. So let's pivot real quick because you just rebranded recently to Uplift Property Management. So tell us why you rebranded, and then kind of like talk to us about that process and how easy it was.
Yeah, it sucked. It sucked, absolutely. I don't recommend it unless you have a real reason to. And for us, we were formerly Jensen Properties San Diego Inc. That's still our business. identity, our corporate thing, and Uplift Property Management's a DBA. But um, we started EOS about, I don't know, 7 years ago now, 6, 7 years ago. And we went through our core values and made our mission statement. And our mission statement for years has been to uplift people, properties, and communities. And that was something, that gets me out of bed. I love getting to select who gets to live in my community and be a contributor in my town, in my city, in whatever. We want to find good people to be contributors, right? So we uplift, giving people a chance, making the properties better, increasing their values and valuations, and then overall increase of the community and giving back to the community. So we rebranded to our name to match our mission. And that really has resonated with our staff. It's resonated with our clients, and it's resonated with anybody who knew us before in the industry as Jensen Properties. And matching your mission, I think, is key on what we do. And I've loved being able to embody that and tell people I'm Uplift Property Management every day. We do get some negative reviews or people that want to make snide comments about that rent increase isn't so uplifting. That it's uplifting to a property and to a property owner, and in turn can be uplifting to a community as well. So we went through that process. It cost a lot of money. We took a huge hit on our SEO, and our leads were had dried up for, I don't know, probably a good 4 or 5 months while we had to rebuild back a lot of that SEO content and traction with Google. That's where we get most of our leads from, referrals and SEO, and SEO leads to realtor referrals. So it really slowed down. But once we've done that, we've got everything really in line, and we're seeing more leads coming in than we ever have before. And really this like last month here, and this is, usually a little bit of a slower time for property management, but we've been, picking up 10 doors a week right now, and it's been going like crazy.
One of the things I always talk about is core values. So when I speak on the circuit, I talk a lot about core values, and I always get people to stand up and I say, "Do you have core values?" And some people will sit down. Does your team know your core values? More people sit down. Then I'm like, do your clients and potential customers know your core values? And everybody sits down. And this is a really great, unique case of your customers and your clients, both your residents and your owners and potential clients, all know your core values through through your marketing and through your mission statement and actually through your name. So well done on that. Really good. And have you seen people you closing people because of the mission and the core values that Uplift embodies?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, one of the things that really drives us is uplifting the community, right? So, for example, just yesterday we went out to our local girls fast pitch softball league and we painted 6 dugouts for them. We just went in and bought all the paint materials. I took my staff out, all paid on the clock, and we just did community service, and we try to get that done every quarter, right? And my business, I find people that are volunteering in the community that are contributors, and those are the people who I want on my team. So I find employees by being active in the community, and people who do what they say they're going to do. Our core values are that we get things done, we're solution focused communicators, and that we're committed to continuous improvement. And those kind of people are going to uplift people, properties, and communities. So that's who I find, and those are the people who love working with us. So being in the community, get tons of leads from people who see what we're doing, and they see what changes we make in our communities. And, for example, I was coaching a soccer game a few months back, and we sponsored the team, right? We have a percentage of our revenue that we allocate to charitable contributions automatically through our budget. And part of that is sponsoring soccer team. So of course we sponsor my kids' team, right? And a parent from the other coach saw how I acted in coaching kids, and she came up and had a sixplex that she wanted us to manage. She said, "Are you guys Uplift Property Management?" Yeah, that's me. And I ended up signing a client just because you're being a good person, caring about more than just the bottom line. It's caring about what you do and who you are and what you're building.
I think I never even thought about that as a way to attract team members other than, posting it on a job board, like what your core values are, but just living those core values, you're able to find team members, which is unique.
Well, and you find team members that have them, they want to be there too, right? Like birds of a
You
feather
don't
flock
have those core
together.
values, you're gonna get spit out. The team's not gonna accept that. They're not gonna accept somebody that doesn't have those same core values as the company. For sure. Um, So talk a little bit more about the rebranding process though. So like, okay, we see the why behind it, and the why's got to be big enough. So if somebody else is sitting there,
Yeah.
because I know like a lot of us get into it from the real estate side of things, right? And then you have companies like, Neubig Realty, and now it's Neubig Realty and Property Management. It's like, man, I don't really want my name attached to the property management because it may not be sellable, or there's just maybe a different reason, right? I know my buddy Brad Larson, he used to have Larson Property Management, and then he moved over to Rentworks. So the why's got to be big enough because it costs money and time, I'm guessing. Did you hire anybody to help you with the rebranding? Um, even at the
Yeah.
like, so kind of talk through that process.
So we hired someone and it was going to be like, it was like $20,000 for this contract to hire a rebrand specialist. And he was a guy we knew from a corporate, like a corporate alliance type thing, where CEOs get together. And my business partner knew him for years, and he does rebrands, and that's all he does. And for us, we started out, we wanted to think of the name. We picked our name that we wanted it to be, and we took it to this guy and said, "Here's what we want. Help us rebrand this." And it was a total flop. It was horrible. For us, we started out with what's the name going to be? It has to be big enough to move the needle for our clients and for our business, and the URL has to be available. The domain, we got to be able to get a domain that makes sense, right? Because our domain was jensenpropertiessd.com, and that was the end of all our emails. We were trying to spell Jensen all the time, trying to say properties plural, and then there's SD, so there's two S's in a row. It was just a nightmare all the time. So now we have Uplift PM, and it's very simple, easy to say. We could do a radio ad and people will get it, right? So we had that in place, and we took this guy, and they wanted to try to rewrite our whole core values. And we've been running on EOS for a few years already. We knew what our core values were. We had our mission statement. We knew what our story was. We just needed somebody to really design us a logo and get us a brand strategy to put together.
Yeah,
And it
somebody
was it was horrible.
need somebody from Fiverr to do that. So this guy was not in line with what you were trying to do. If he's trying to change your core values, yeah.
Yeah, and I love the guy. We ended up using the logo that he designed for us because it beat out any of the other ones we pulled from Fiverr. We paid out an agreement on the contract that we signed with them, and we ended up just going through and doing it ourselves. It was more about updating our website and all of our content. We have an employee intranet where we keep all our policies and procedures, and I still find, it's been almost 2 years since we rebranded now, and I still find Jensen properties on certain documents, and I'm like, oh my goodness, we got to get through this. But
So I mean, you
it,
have to change your leases, you got to change your PMAs, right?
yep.
Rules, all those documents, um, and then obviously the website. When did you realize, oh crap, SEO is kind of tied into the website and all that stuff? Did you know about this ahead of time, or did you guys kind of get blindsided by it?
Yeah, we have an SEO consultant that knew, and they help us manage our Google business profiles and making sure that we can switch things over. But at the same point, you have a huge disruption in the continuity of your timeline as a business, and Google ranks that timeline of history that you have. So you kind of like have a schism right there, and you kind of got to start fresh. And it was really, really hard, but it also made us focus on all of our lead gen activity and how we wanted to make that happen. My sales and marketing director is amazing at making sure we get there, but we still like he takes, SEO classes online, making sure that we're up to date on exactly what Google's doing so that we can stay ahead of the pack.
So you mentioned lots of different job positions there. So without getting too much into the weeds, I know some people are kind of weird about this, but can you tell me how many units or how many units you guys manage, and then tell me a little bit about your org structure? Because it seems like
Yeah.
many people listening to this have an SEO specialist on staff. All right.
Yeah, so I mean, our SEO consultant he's hired out. He was a recommendation from a friend of mine that owns a carpet cleaning business that's really successful here in San Diego. And we went with him, and it's been doing great for us. We've been doing that for a few years before the rebrand also. But org chart wise, I do, have my leadership team. It's me, I'm the SEO, and I have my director of ops, my director of sales and marketing, and my office controller. Those are my leadership team. And then we have a portfolio-based system. So I've got three going on four portfolio supervisors. Each of them have a remote team member as an assistant, and they handle the property management activities of a portfolio. Somewhere between 150 to 200 doors is our sweet spot that we found is without them getting overworked. And then we have about 400 units that are large multifamily, so they have on-site resident managers that are there that work full time and essentially handle their property as if it were a portfolio on their own.
Yeah, and I think, if you're listening to this and you're like, man, I really want to give back to my community and I want to have, a percentage of revenue go to charity. I'll never forget when I was at my church, the preacher was like, look, if you want to tithe 10%, that's great. He goes, but honestly, you got to be able to make money first, and then the tithing comes after, right? You got to like be able to survive, and then you can tithe. And so, if you listen to this, I would say get profitable first, and then take a percentage of that profit and then tithe back to the community for sure.
Yeah, I'm a proud member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I pay my 10% tithing, but the business money is the business money. It's what comes to me personally, I tithe on. That's where the profit is generated. So
Yeah, and I would think
that
the same kind of concept, right? If the business wants to give back to charitable
yeah.
contributions, I'm just saying here, just make sure the business is profitable and maybe even have like a little rainy day fund before you give, you know, start giving to
Oh,
back.
believe me, I'm not spending 10% of revenue on charitable contributions out of the business. So it's more of those things that come in, and I can't say no to that, 10-year-old kid that's asking me to sponsor their sports team,
Yeah.
or that person that just needs a little bit of help.
So you mentioned that you use virtual team members, and obviously everybody listening to this knows that I own a VA company. But when we were in the green room talking, you said you found a pretty cool tool called Bonusly. Can you can you tell the audience a little bit about Bonusly and what it's doing for you and your remote team members?
Yeah, and Bonusly is for all of my staff, not just remote team members. But it does give me a way that I can essentially send them little gifts or incentivize them. So it's a platform where you can recognize. So you just give points, and each point's worth like 10 cents or something. So, and everybody gets an allotment of points that they can share. So it's peer to peer recognition and public recognition. And I think that almost more important than the money is public recognition among your peers, right? You did a good job. You got through that client call. That was really tough. You onboarded, 6 units into your portfolio. Here's an extra, $25, but also a huge shout out in front of everybody that you're awesome at your job, right? And it gives them a chance. And the cool thing is we tie it to our core values. So those recognitions are tied to a hashtag, we get things done, or hashtag solution focused communicator. And like you tie it there and you can see what people are getting rewarded for based on the core values.
I love that, man. A big fan of what is it? Praise in public, redirect in private. And
Mm-hmm.
we do something similar, but I love the hashtag on the core value. I may steal that from you. We use Slack, and we have a Slack channel, and it's called VPM internal, and it's just an internal Slack channel, and we use that only for good news. So when somebody gets, oh, I just got a job posted, I got a job filled, or I just fixed this bug, whatever it is, like we put that in there, and it's amazing how the energy and how all the people feel because all they've seen is this good news. Because normally, especially in property management, normally it's just bad news channels, right? Everything's a bad news.
Always.
So
Yeah, so I mean, for me, like for example, Bonusly, like I don't have very much communication with my remote team members. There's two layers of management between me and the remote team member position. So oftentimes I feel like I neglect them as part of my team, right? So on Friday, I just said, "Hey, I'm going to give out, 500 bonus lead points to the first person to hop on this call and 400 to the next person and so on down while my, six remote team members were hopping on." And they loved it and they got a chance to sit with me for, 45 minutes. We just chit-chatted about what was working, what was not working, how their lives were. One of them I'd never even like met in person. She'd been working with for me for like 2 or 3 months and I'm like, "I've never even like seen your face yet." So Bonusly gave me a great opportunity to incentivize them on an impromptu, quick, "Hey, hop on."
I think it's a great way, and it seems to be streamlined, and it seems to be relatively cheap to be able to incentivize the team. And it's not all about the money, right? The team is, like you said, getting praised in public, or just getting little gifts here and there is really a great way to keep that culture, right? Especially especially more and more people going remote, and it's a great way. So I may steal a bonus lead from you as well, and and
As a business owner, you only get billed for what they redeem, right? So if people aren't redeeming their points for the gift cards, you only get billed when they're redeeming you. And then there's like a per user monthly fee, but it's very cheap. It's actually really a really nice way of doing it. Plus, your remote staff around the world, they can grab, gift cards that are going to be applicable to them. And,
right.
some of them aren't, so you got to be careful. And I had one of my remote team members in Mexico got something for like I don't remember Abercrombie and Fitch or something, and it was only U.S. based gift cards, so he couldn't use it. So he's going to send it to his parents that live in the United States, and it's like, okay, well, sorry, dude. Read the fine print on what you're getting.
I love it though, man. It's a because it sounds like you're a very good culture builder. And and you say, "Oh, I don't, I have two layers of management on my remote team." It's not your job to manage the remote team, right? You have team members that manage the remote team, but it is your job to build that culture that it goes all the way down to the remote team members. And I think just from hearing you today, you do an amazing job of that and using tools like Bonusly to help build that culture, like the Slack channels, like praising in public, like doing going out and doing those community service ideas, and literally, I think the most important thing you're doing is you're hiring people that embody those core values, and I would say that's probably the number one reason why people stick around is because they embody those core values.
Yeah, love it. EOS has that spot on how to find the right people for the right seat.
Yep. So tell us just a little bit about EOS. We got a few more minutes here before we hit the commercial break. So, what made you decide to go EOS, and how has it impacted your company? And what would you tell somebody if they were on the fence about getting EOS? Well, I'm not going to make this an EOS commercial, but I mean, you've done a great job of
Yeah,
growing business through EOS. So let's hit it.
EOS has been one of the hardest things to implement, but one of the most necessary things for us. It gives us a way to work on the business instead of in the business, right? And actually taking your mindset and thinking that is huge, right? So there's a lot of jargon that EOS puts in there. You've got your quarterly rocks, your L10 meetings every week with your leadership team. You've got your scorecards, KPIs, all these things. And,
Your
as you
accountability
learn it,
chart, right?
yeah, your accountability chart, you got your delegate and elevate, all these things to help you build your business in a way. It gives you a roadmap. Now, implementers are outrageously expensive, if you ask me. And so that's the not commercial for EOS implementers. But we did self implement, and we actually we did that for about 4 years. And then we actually hired somebody outside, just a regular business coach that comes to our quarterlies and our annuals to just keep us on track. And we gave him our outline of what we want to do, and essentially we taught him how we want him to be our implementer, and it allows me and my business partner, instead of trying to run this meeting in an open way, to be able to actually contribute with the team.
And for those of you who are listening that don't know EOS, it's from a book called Traction. Gino Wickman is the
It's right back here on this shelf.
so you got that. You got Get a Grip. I'm seeing all the EOS books, and so I highly recommend reading the book. And if you can self-implement, go for it. And we did it at Empire. We self-implemented. I self-implemented at VPM. I'm sure I've implemented maybe 75% successful versus like if I had an implementer, it probably would have been like more like 100%. But you're right, they're not cheap. And I love the idea that you had is have your business coach and have like basically they're an accountability partner to you, right? You're
Yep.
accountable to the partner.
The other thing, you can be in part of masterminds, you know, and go to your NARPM chapter, have a mastermind. I guarantee people at your local chapter are doing EOS and know what's working, what's not working. Or, you know, Profit Coach has a lot of stuff, or go to conferences and you can talk to all
Challenge
these
that I had
people.
with the challenge I had with EOS was like I knew some of the challenges, deep rooted challenges, but I didn't fix them. Like example would be like I knew I had some bad players when I was in Empire, and I knew I needed to get rid of bad players, but you make excuses because you don't want to get rid of them. Or I knew that we were spending too much in marketing and not investing, right? There's a difference. And because my business partner was the one who was running that, having that difficult conversation, so I try to save money elsewhere. And so, like, if you're going to implement this thing yourself, you gotta have the nuts to face those
Yeah.
really difficult.
And to be open and honest, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, open and honest with your team and with yourself,
with
right? Like I
yourself.
had a very similar situation where I had, you know, one staff, we were open and honest with like the company finances with the leadership team, and he got really upset. And he ended up, you know, creating this derision among himself because he thought we should be doing something different with the profit than what we were doing. And at that point, I wasn't even an equity partner. I was just, you know, running the show. Um, but we lost an awesome employee. He still works freelance for me on certain tasks that I want him to do. You know, in another case, I had one of my best friends from high school. I grew up, I've known the guy since I was 4, and he was on my team and he was my ops director, and he just wasn't embodying the core values anymore. He did when he was getting promoted through from a property manager, a leasing assistant, up to a director of ops. And it turned out that he just stopped embodying them and had this shift. But EOS highlighted those shifts and gave us kind of a framework to work through it. Was it hard to get through that and fire, one of my best friends? Yeah, absolutely. It's always going to be hard. But was my business better off for it? Tenfold.
That's the one thing that was our mantra. It's like what's best for the business, not what's best for the business partner, not what's best for Pete, not what's best for the team member. It's what is best for the business. And if you can, say that and deliver on that, easier said than done, because sometimes you make decisions that really is not best for the business, but it's like best for your best friend, right?
Yeah,
my guess is you probably kept them along around a little too long.
absolutely.
Made that decision. Yeah,
I think that happens to everybody. It's like you want
absolutely.
him, you see the guy, he's got potential, he's got it, he knows, he knows what it is, and he just doesn't do it. And you can only drag him along so far.
Do you think there was part of that of the Peter principle where you promoted to the point of inability, or did he actually just change his core values or just not embody the core values anymore? Because normally you don't change your values. Normally you just can't do the position, and then you're get stressed because it's not natural because you maybe promoted to the point where probably should have been promoted to.
This one definitely had some huge personal shifts in his life and some personal things that had contributed to uh, declining performance at work. And therefore, part of that was declining ability to embody the core values while at work, right? So there was definitely a shift there, and I still see the guy every Thursday night. We have game night, and I see him, and we're friends. It's great, but I don't see him every day at the office.
Letting him go either because there's a great there's a style to letting somebody go and still being friendly, right? So
Oh,
uh,
it took a while. You know, he was a guy who was, at my house for Thanksgiving and Christmas every year with my family, right? And you know,
that had to be a
it,
that had to be a very, very difficult conversation, man. I did not envy you.
it was hard, but it took him a couple months to come back around and be open to talking with me. And he's, when we let him go, it was we know. I know that this is hard for you right now, but I know this is going to be better because I know where you're at and what you want to be and who you want to be is not here. And he is happier now. He knows that, and he actually brought that up to me, a few months back, and
I don't see it at the
like,
time, but I had a business coach tell me what we're going to do is you're going to tell them you're going to free up their future so they can go do
yep,
what it is what they were born to do because this isn't it, you know? So, all right, listen, Tommy, we got to take a quick break. We're going to hit a commercial and then we're going to put you in the lightning round. Are you,
okay,
all right, everybody, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the NARPM Radio Show. Got Tommy Perfect with Uplift Property Management on the hot seat in the lightning round. Tommy, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Just, whatever comes to your mind. If you want to expand on it, be more than happy to. All right, what PM software do you use?
Appfolio,
What is your org structure?
uh, CEO, leadership team with everything else, and then portfolio based management.
Portfolio based. Do you have BDMs or salespeople?
My my BDM, he likes the title of sales and marketing director, so I give him that title because he likes it.
No problem there. What is one piece of advice you'd give someone just starting out in the PM business?
Uh, get involved with a mastermind group or a local NARPM chapter.
Does pineapple belong on pizza?
Absolutely.
What was your first job?
Soccer referee.
No way.
Yeah, I've been dealing with conflict my whole life.
What is your ideal vacation?
Ooh, desert trips out with the family in the motorhome, riding motorcycles,
Oh, no. Dirt bikes?
dirt bikes, three-wheelers.
Awesome. Oh, three wheels. Awesome. All right.
Yeah, death traps that I love to attach myself to.
What is something that most people don't know about you other than that you love getting on three wheelers?
I'm a twin. I have a twin brother, but he's about yay tall, blonde hair, blue eyes, can't catch a tan.
Oh, wow. No, nice. Um, if you could have dinner with anyone alive, who would it be?
Um, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I I'd have to think about that. Honestly, probably somebody like Mitt Romney.
All right. That's a new one. What book are you currently reading or one that has impacted your business or life? And I know Traction's one of them. So do you have another?
Yeah. I got this one right now. Ben Servin with Black Sheep Global gave this to me. It's the Checklist Manifesto, and it's all about how checklists
Yep.
came about with the air, plane aircraft industry as well as the hospital industry.
Yep. That was a good book. I read that one. Which Disney character do you most associate with?
Oh, none. I don't know. My kids watch all these Disney shows all the time. I don't know if I relate to any of them.
All right, I'll let you off. You can use a Marvel character if you want to do that. I can hook there or Star
If
Wars.
I could have a superpower, it'd be to be efficient. And that's what I tell people. So I can be a pretty
Captain
boring
Efficiency,
person.
huh?
Yeah, that's me.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Oh, guy. All right. Well, that's it. You're off the lightning round, brother.
All
If
right, I survived.
if somebody is wanted to reach out to you, what's the best way that they can contact you if they want to learn more about EOS or rebranding or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm always open. I'm on all the Facebook groups for property management. You can find me there, or just go to my website, give us a call, say, "Hey, I saw Tommy on the podcast." And if you call me Tommy, they will get you through to me. If you call me Thomas, they know you're just a salesperson. So call me Tommy, and if you're calling for Tommy Perfect, you'll get me.
Awesome. Perfect. All right. If you are listening to this and you're not a member of NARPM, um, please go ahead and join up. It's probably the best investment that you could probably make in yourself and in your business. Call them at 800-782-3452 or go to NARPM, NARPM, narpm.org. And if you listen to this and you're like, man, I want remote team members to run as efficient as they do for Uplift, then give us a try at VPM Solutions, vpmsolutions.com, or you can email me at pete@vpmsolutions.com. Tommy, thanks again for being here. All right, everybody. Till next time. Ciao.